Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm getting started now. I was listening to music before we get started. I wanted to make sure I'm here and I'm on time, and I got distracted by a good song. So give me 2 seconds. I got to just make sure I can see you on my phone to be able to track. And I got it. One more click, and I'm good. I just want to be able to look at my phone to be able to make sure that when I'm presenting, you can see it. I'm going to turn off this scrolling text, hide this other guy. We're off to the races. Again, welcome. I like starting the training off with a tip for success for those of you who are showing up early and on time. I really appreciate the fact that you show up early and on time, and I especially appreciate when you engage in the chat because you're building that community. I love that. My tip for you for today for success is to lean on a soundboard or a friend, right? Somebody you can lean to. Like, these trainings are not possible without the help of Cecilia. And if you don't know, that's my sister in there. Cecilia, who's been part of the chamber since 2017, 18 when I started it. And Gus Phelps, who's in there. These guys I lean on as I put the training together. An example, though, as it relates to the tip I want to share with you, is sometimes you just need to lean on people to get help. And today I had this massive headache, which apparently is gone because I'm in a much better mood. But I had a massive headache and I couldn't really think about what I wanted to prepare in the training for today, because every day we come at the training from a fresh perspective. We don't use continuously old stuff. Anyways, long story short, I leaned out to Gus. I'm like, dude, I can't even think. Can you help me? And you can see right here, back here, we quickly whiteboarded it. And because he and I have been talking about these trainings for years now, we're able to put together good, solid training. I'm excited about the training today. We're able to put it together. And my tip for you is to make sure you have those people around you. If you don't have people you're working with, maybe you're just getting started in government contracting, et cetera, don't forget the 7 mentors. Somebody's going to drop it, I'm sure, into the chat, but we put out a lot of training about the 7 mentors, what I like to call your informal board of advisors. And these are people who can help you out there. And so, small business development centers, veteran business center, women business center, PTAX, et cetera. Yes, APEX. But all these people are out there wanting to see you succeed. Make sure you're building a relationship with them before you get a headache and you need their help. That's my tip for you today. As a thank you for showing up early and on time. Again, I really appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get to the races on today's training around why buyers are not taking your calls. Let me just get my PowerPoint lined up. Okay, so again, today we're going to be talking about why federal buyers don't take your calls and what you can do about it, right? The whole reason for trying to get buyers to take your call is when they do take your call and when you are able to get in and meet with them, you're able to hear about more opportunities. That's what we need to do, right? Business development is fundamentally learning about an agency, building relationships, and identifying opportunities. And you can't do any of that unless you have those relationships and those meetings with buyers, federal buyers. And so you get to hear about more opportunities. When you do this same kind of thing, getting into agencies and or going directly to teammates, you're able to get invited onto more teams. I've had this left and right because I interact with so many small businesses that I'm able to watch teams get put together and going after opportunities. Somebody just became a sustaining member this week. And my team was like, oh, this is great. Do you know this person? Of course I know this person. They've been a huge friend of ours for a long, long time. And they have interacted with somebody else in our community and they have gone after opportunities. Well, you have to meet with people and develop those relationships in order to get invited onto teams. We think you would fit here. And obviously, right, the biggest reason we want to meet people, develop the relationships, have these federal buyers take our calls is because we want to win more contracts. And the likelihood of us increasing or winning more contracts increases with the more meetings we have with buyers, with the more federal buyers we know and understand. And so that's why I'm doing today's training. The way I'm going to break down the information I want to share with you is, first, I just want to talk about really reinforcing why it's important that we reach out to federal buyers. Second thing I want to cover down on is this challenge, right? Why aren't buyers taking our calls, or why aren't more of the federal buyers taking our calls? And then the third part is what we can do about it. I'm going to give you some tactical tips that you can take away today and start implementing. Keep this in mind, right? When you're thinking about anything, you need to gain the knowledge in order to develop the skills, and then you will start having the experience, right? The experiences that you want, the repeatable activity, et cetera. But it all begins with the knowledge, and that's what today's training is about. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you. One thing I would like you to keep in mind is we are completely self-funded. We're not a government-affiliated organization. And I wanted to say this because we just kept getting people thinking that the government is paying for us. No, the very reason we exist almost is because of what we don't see coming out of the government. We want to be able to provide that stuff that I wish I had when I was a small business owner and that you have. So we're self-funded, but we're also supported by our sustaining members. And today I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Chris here. He's with Technical Solutions, runs Technical Solutions, been a big fan of ours, is a sustaining member. And I just want to say thank you. Go take a look at what they do. They do product services or product development. So say hi to Chris in the chat. If he's in here, give him a shout out, give him a thumbs up or something, but definitely connect with him. He's open to connections. For everybody, I want you to help buyers remember who you are, right? Put your company name and your core competency, 2 or 3 words into the chat. Let the buyers know who you are. Help me remember who you are and my team. And then help everybody in the community see who you are. Oh, that's what you sell. That's where you're at. You're over in, in San Antonio, Texas, for example, or this is the agency you're trying to go after. Share a little bit of information, not big paragraphs, but little bits of information throughout the chat when you're in a community helps people begin to get to know you. And that goes to the last bullet I have here is just remember to engage in the chat. It is your community. Part of this is training and part of it is your ability to network. I enable you to network every single day with 50 to 100 people live. That's fantastic, right? That's a really good opportunity. Take advantage of it. If you are not, make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn. We have a lot of people who watch on other social media platforms, especially on YouTube. Please come on over. We'd love to have you in LinkedIn. This is the platform, the only platform that really enables us to collaborate with each other, building a community around government contracting. Second thing is, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to our government GovCon Success newsletter. We've got almost 10,000 people subscribed in there. I'd love to have you join us. If you're already a subscriber, make sure you push the word out. Let others know. I share a lot of information. Please don't ever keep a single bit of it for yourself. Let me rephrase that. Keep it for yourself, but make sure you share it with a friend, right? Let's help each other out there. You can find that information on LinkedIn on my profile, which I have listed here. Don't forget about 2 trainings I got coming up. If you're here live, it's coming up tomorrow and the next day. One big one is what to do after you send out RFIs. I got a lot of small businesses. We send out RFIs and maybe we call it KO, but we don't really do much else. And so I want to give you guidance on what you can do after you send an RFI in order to try to use it to win more contracts. And then Friday, I'm going to cover down on 6 phrases that successful government contractors use and say all the time. Okay, let me get some water. We're going to dive into why you need to reach out to federal buyers. I alluded to this early when I was introducing the training, right? But reaching out to federal buyers, having that first meeting, it's fundamental to our success. It's really important. People buy from those they know, like, and trust, right? And when you have meetings, it's your chance for them to begin to get to know you. And as you have more meetings and you talk about what you do, you talk about your area of expertise, they're able to begin to trust you because they're listening to you and they can hear you sounding like a subject matter expert or what we like to call a supreme domain authority, right? But when you begin to weave that expertise into their challenges and their goals, they really begin to trust you. And that's where the like begins to happen. They begin to like you, not just trust you. I like working with this company and this person, right? So people buy from those they know, like, and trust. But if you can't get into a first meeting with some of these federal buyers, how can they even begin to know you, let alone trust you and like you, right? And so that's an important reason for reaching these federal buyers. Once you are reaching these buyers, some of the value of having these relationships in these meetings is that you're able to learn about an agency, right? Business development in particular is about understanding an agency better than they understand it themselves. The reason I say that is because when you go in, you're looking at the whole agency and you're trying to figure out where it fits, et cetera. The people who work inside of an agency, they tend to just be focusing on Their office, they're in a program office or like the HR department, whatever it is, they're not trying to understand the whole agency, but you are. That's our job as vendors who want to support an agency, is to learn about that agency, understand how it's organized, right? To understand the challenges they're facing, and they're very candid with their challenges sometimes, and understanding the goals. What's your goals in the next fiscal year and the next 5 years? That's a really important thing to understand. I just put out a strategic plan yesterday. That's a 4-year strategic plan that lays this out for CISA, a DHS component, right? I still recall when Gus and I met, right? Gus Felt, partner here, he and I met when he was just getting started in government contracting, and I was his mentor, right? That's how we were able to develop the relationship we have today, as we began to work together in this stage. And what I watched him do in a short amount of time when he learned about an agency, in this case it was DLA, through his commitment to learning about the agency, he learned more about it than the people he was having a call with, so that when he had the call, he was able to shift the authority into his favor, because they looked at him and they said, hey, where'd you find that document? And he was like, that's your document. And this is what I mean by learning about an agency. When you get in, you're able to get that kind of information and share it with others. Being on their guest list, right? This is an important part about having meetings. If you get in and have a meeting and they know you, especially if they like and trust you, then when they have an opportunity for market research, they're going to come to you. They're going to invite you to the table. Hey, a bunch of vendors, we'd like some information, and you're invited because we know you, right? You got in the door and you talked to them and you got on their radar. When you're on the radar, the chances of getting invited back is huge. And then the last one is a reason that it's vital for us to get in the door is because it helps us build a relationship. If you understand the 7-step process that I teach, it begins with research and goes targeting, outreach, relationships, opportunities, sales, opportunities, proposals, and sales. And so you can't have relationships without outreach. And outreach is today's training, right? That how do I get in more doors? When you get in more doors, you're able to build these strategic relationships. And through strategic relationships, you can get access to everything else: agency understanding, hearing about opportunities, etc. We use this phrase, dig your well before you're thirsty, from this guy, Harvey Mackay, wrote a book a long, long time ago. But this idea of don't wait until you're thirsty to start digging a well. Don't wait until you need some relationships within an agency to start trying to build those relationships. You will come in too greedy, right? You will be coming in trying to take instead of a give and take. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's talk about why federal buyers aren't taking your call, right? If we know that they need to take our call, and I just shared some of the top reasons why we need them to take our call in order for us to have that success, right? Here are some reasons that I just put down to help you think about it from a problem solution standpoint, right? And so these are in just a particular order, but the first thing is one of the reasons maybe a buyer isn't taking your call is they didn't even know you were trying, right? Maybe you send an email or you send a voicemail, it just goes into oblivion. I have my phone, right? And I get voicemails, and if I don't listen to it right then and there, it starts going down. You know, I'll give you a quick example. My wife knows that if it's an emergency to text me. That's how bad I am with phone calls and voicemails or any of that stuff. But if it's a text, I look at it. And so one of the things to keep in mind is when people have a bunch of emails coming in, it's very easy for things to move down. Think about your own inbox right now, right? If you look at your inbox, how many emails do you get in a single day, right? Think about that. Actually, put it in the chat. Just tell me, on average, are you getting 25 emails a day, 50 emails a day? Now imagine the federal buyer. How many of the 300,000 small businesses that are in the federal space might be trying to reach out to these federal buyers, right? How many calls and emails are they getting? Well, the chances are your request for a meeting with them might just push down. It's as simple as it's down. That's why we use this phrase, hey, John, I'm just bringing up this request for a meeting to the top of your inbox, right? We'll talk more about that. The second thing second reason on why people might not be taking your call or scheduling a meeting with you is because they're just busy. They're busy for so many different reasons. They're busy because of the job, or the boss is on their case, or they've got personal life. Right here, I got a wound right in the middle of my head while I'm doing video, which is, could be embarrassing. It's not, but I got that from something that happened in the household with my kids. It was fun, but it was bad. But I had something, so it's an emergency. I've had my kid break his arm. I've had another kid do this. Well, that's life, right? So if you're trying to ask me for a meeting and I'm ignoring you, I always tell you, people ignore you not for the reasons you think, right? They're not ignoring you because they wish you'd go away. They're ignoring you because they have other things filling their mind. They're not looking at you and your request to have a meeting and saying, oh, I'm going to ignore that, right? They're just busy. And so if you recognize that, then it's your job to kind of stay on their radar as you go forward. But most importantly, don't blame them because when you blame them, you begin to not see that you could be a part of the solution. I'll talk about that in the next slide. So those are just some reasons on their part, right? Maybe they didn't know you were trying, or maybe they're busy. From your perspective, some of the reasons the federal buyer might not be taking your call or having a meeting, scheduling a meeting with you could be your fault, right? And I say that very gently because if it's your fault, we can fix it. But you might not be impressing them. Maybe your emails or your voicemails or your calls are not impressing them, right? And so you want to be able to work on that. If you call them and you leave a voicemail and it's just jumbled, or if you are calling them and you just don't sound exciting, and I don't mean overly exciting, you don't have to sound like me, but if you don't sound like you actually want to have the meeting, then maybe you're not impressing them, right? And there's things you can do about that. I talk about this in the training that I do for customers that I work with, as well as the free training I put out. Practice, practice, practice. If you're going to leave a voicemail, just take the time to practice that voicemail. Hi, John, right? In sales, we're taught, have a mirror in front of us so that we can smile while we're leaving a voicemail, because when you smile in a voicemail, people can feel that on the other side. And so not only are you going to impress them with maybe, hey, we've got great quals and we've got great core competencies or something, but you're also impressing with just, I like hearing from this person, compared to, maybe sometimes people call and we underimpressed by being maybe a little bit too demanding, right? And there's things we can do, but think about this. Your LinkedIn profile, your website are underwhelming. When you reach out to somebody and try to get a meeting, we tend to do some due diligence. I do this all the time. Somebody reaches out to me and if I don't know who they are, I click on their LinkedIn profile and I go see who they are. If they're calling about a company, I go see who the company is. If I can find something that makes sense for me to talk to them, I'll talk to them. But if not, then I move on. Well, one of the challenges that you have right now, you being small businesses, right? One of the problems is that you're not impressing the buyer or the person you're trying to meet with your DSPS profile, your LinkedIn profile, or your website. That's where they go to look at you. And so like a quick tip sidebar is make sure you go look at those three things and say, if I was the buyer, would I want to meet with this person? It only takes you a few minutes, a couple hours maybe, to make it look whelming, if that's a word, right? Compared to underwhelming. It's make your profiles look good. All right, the next thing is down below here. This is where it gets into a little different way of looking at why people aren't taking your call, right? They don't feel understood. And this is a classic one. First thing is you're just not taking the time to understand what the government does, what that agency does. You don't understand my mission. You don't understand what we even buy, right? There's this great line that says, people don't care about what you know until they know that you care. People don't care about what you know until they know that you care. And that's a really important thing, because if you're trying to reach out and get a meeting, have you done anything that is demonstrating that you care? Or are you just demonstrating that you care about yourself, right? And we all got to pay attention to that. And so when I look at simple ways of knowing that you care, you can just make sure that you're calling people who actually buy what you sell. There's this ladder over here. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing, but it doesn't matter if you climb the ladder of success if the ladder is on the wrong wall. You need to make sure you're putting that ladder on the right wall before you climb it. And it's the same thing when you're trying to reach out to federal buyers. That ladder represents the effort you're putting in to reach out to a federal buyer. But if you get to the top and you realize you're just climbing on the wrong wall, then you need to begin to think about that. First, make sure you're against the right wall, then start your climb. And so an example is I put down here, you're aiming too high, right? You're trying to call a CIO instead of some of the direct reports, or you're not really paying attention to whether they buy what you sell. And so you're just calling everybody. We did that actually just a little bit ago, just to use it as an example. It comes around. It's totally fine if it hits. You just got to learn and move forward. But we were reaching out on behalf of a customer of ours to somebody. And it turns out these particular people we're trying to reach out to, we got 3 in a row where we're like, hey, we don't really take those calls. You know what? Okay, perfect. We're going to reshift who we're going to call. We realized really quickly on 1 or 2 rungs that we were on the wrong wall. So we climb off the ladder and we put it on the right wall. And you can do that same thing when you're thinking about, am I aiming too high? Am I calling the people who would likely take my calls? Okay, so let's talk about what you can do to get federal buyers to take your calls, right? I teach this thing, and I might even say it a little later, but you want to take responsibility in order to gain control. So earlier I had said it's kind of your fault, right? And I said it very softly. But right here, if you're not impressing them, that's not their fault. That's my fault, right? It's our fault. And so when you're thinking about what you can do, one of the things I really want you to keep as a belief is that if I take responsibility, I can get control. Responsibility is not about blame. It doesn't matter. We're not here to blame anybody. We're here to go, who has responsibility? And this is the really important part about this. If you say the government, federal buyer you're trying to reach has a responsibility for making sure you guys are able to connect, it's their job to meet with us and to talk with industry. If you say they have responsibility, then they have control. And the only thing you can do is sit back and wait for them to decide to change their mind, for them to do something. But if you take responsibility and say, I have responsibility for making sure I'm meeting with the federal buyer, then you now have complete control. The other person is just going to get on your roller coaster and go wherever you go, but you're in control of that roller coaster. You're in control of the success. You're in control of whether you start meeting federal buyers more and start having more meetings. So one of the things I mentioned is that, maybe when you're reaching out and you're calling them, you're not really impressing them. And what I meant by this is that you have a first impression, and I don't believe there's only, there's such a thing as only first or one first impression. I believe you can come back and correct it over and over again. As long as you're not a jerk and unprofessional, like mean, you have a chance to come back. You can screw up and go, I screwed up. Can I fix it? And everybody's generally pretty nice that way. So anything that you haven't been getting traction on, that's fine. But what you want to do is to use templates and scripts when you call somebody and leave a voicemail, or when you call somebody and you're asking for a meeting, that first few seconds, you want to have a script that allows you to get started and to not babble about your whole company and give it an entire capabilities briefing when all you're trying to do is schedule a meeting. And if you're following up or even starting with an email to try to get a meeting, you want to use template emails so those emails get you in. I've got whole trainings, separate trainings on those you can go watch that describe how do you do that. But the biggest thing to keep in mind is you want to be concise and drive directly to what you're looking for, while giving them one, what I call a teaser at the moment, one thing that teases them to why it would be worth my while to meet with you. An example of a teaser is, we just used this actually today with a particular customer we're helping. It's like, hey, and I'm going to make up a company here, but we've been working with Boeing for the last 10 years over here. I'd love to sit there and talk to you about perhaps supporting your division. What I'm teasing that Boeing company about is that, hey, this is a company that's got proven value to my company. They're just not working with me. Let me give them 15, 30 minutes to talk. And so that's an example of a teaser that gets put into a template or a voicemail script. When you use these voicemail scripts and templates, you're adding a level of professionalism and process to your outreach, which enables you to be able to impress them enough to maybe give you the meeting or go research you. And this goes to my second bullet, right? Be findable and attractive. You're going to be findable because you're reaching out, right? But when we describe visibility, we say you should be findable and attractive. That's what visibility means. People can find you when they're looking for a company like yours. And attractive means that if you say you do plumbing, everything about your company marketing material says we do plumbing. It doesn't also say we do cybersecurity and something else. That shows disorganization. This is probably not a good plumbing or cyber company. But when they come in and they see all plumbing, or if you're a cyber company, all cyber, then you're attractive. And so if you're trying to schedule a meeting with them and you have your core competency locked down, your website, your LinkedIn profile, all have this consistent message. It doesn't have to cost a lot. It just has to be you saying, this is what we do, and here's some a little bit more reinforcing material around that. So going with this idea of visibility being findable and attractive, you also want to keep in mind that you should be omnipresent. This is something you want to begin to develop. What omnipresent means is to be present everywhere a buyer might look. So an example of where you should be, absolutely, is in DSBS, right? The number one market research tool is DSBS. Second place you need to be in is in LinkedIn. right? That's where they'll go look. Your website, actually, no one goes to your website to look for you. They'll go to Google maybe and find a company like yours. But really, your website's just minimal to me. It's in DSBS, in LinkedIn, your profile. And again, you want to be attractive in these spaces. So speaking to your core competency, you also want to be in supplier portals, right? We've got a customer that was reaching out to Army Contracting Command, and APG, they have their own vendor supplier portal. And so they registered in that supplier portal. So they're visible to those contracting officers when they look at their own supplier portal. This is what I mean by omnipresent, is where are people? And then something else you can do, because you're a vendor, is in LinkedIn in particular, make sure you're sharing some content, even like once a week, once every 2 weeks, some content that goes along to your core competency, cybersecurity, or elevator services, et cetera, plumbing. Something that says, hey, we're experts at this. That way, when people are looking on different platforms or different tools and they see you, you're omnipresent, and there's a consistency around the attractiveness of your business. Another tip here is that you can warm them up on LinkedIn. So if you know you're going to be reaching out to people, millions of federal employees, and so potential buyer representatives, they're on LinkedIn. They're engaged one way or another out there. Go look at the people you're trying to reach out to and see if you might be able to warm up that call, that outreach, by just engaging with them on LinkedIn. Again, I have a whole nother training just on how to do that. But fundamentally, it means coming in, giving a thumbs up, etc. I just posted something today, and I had somebody from the Secretary of the Defense's office come in and engage, somebody else from the Navy. It's because I'm posting stuff that I know that they'd be interested in. That's important to me, because I'm trying to reach them to get them to give me information that I can then give you, right? And so there's this circle around it. It doesn't have to be complicated. In the beginning, you can just go to LinkedIn and search for your core competency and the agency you might be looking for, and find content, what we call posts. Find content in LinkedIn and engage it with a thumbs up or a comment. That's more than enough. It doesn't have to be complicated. And the last tip on that middle section is just get introductions. If you're trying to get in somewhere, get somebody else to introduce you. If you're trying to get into contracting officers, maybe the small business specialist can make that introduction. And then the last part about what you can do to get federal buyers to take your calls is increase the volume, right? I talk about in order for you to have success in the federal market, you need to have a list of 100 or 200 people that you're reaching out to, so that you can build a set of relationships between 8 and 12 strategic relationships. But it takes time in the beginning to call a lot of people to find the right ones that you can first get in and have a meeting with, and then second, build a strategic relationship with. So increase your output to 25 calls a day. Certainly, if you're full-time sales in any way, do that. If you're lower in it, just compensate that. But 5 calls a day minimum. It takes you 10, 15 minutes. What else are you doing, right? And the last one is be persistent. I did a whole training on this, but one of the challenges is we don't follow up enough. And that's why they don't give us a meeting. It's not because they don't want to meet with us, but we came in, we went to the bottom of the inbox. But if you keep following up, they're going to get back to you and say, I've been meaning to get back to you and meaning to schedule a meeting. So be persistent when you're trying to reach out to folks at the federal agency. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training, right? In order for you to achieve success, like getting in and getting meetings, you need to do the right things the right way and enough of the right things. An example is you need to call 25 people a day or 5 people a day. You need to pick up the phone and follow up. The second thing is, remember, take responsibility so you have control. Don't ever blame yourself and don't blame anybody else. Take responsibility. That gives you the control of the success that you want, success in government contracting and success in getting meetings. And the last thing is, make sure you set a daily goal. I said 25 calls a day. Set any goal, 5 calls, 1 call a day to a new person, right? Set that daily metric and never miss it. First thing you do every single day is hit that metric and then do everything else. When you do that, you're going to achieve success. Hey, if you're interested in working with me and when you're ready to work with me, you can go to govconchamber.com to learn about how we can help you accelerate your success in the federal market. Love to help you. When you're at that stage, you can check out our website. For everybody, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.